Colton.
Sweet.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Welcome to my show, Wide Open.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
You are such a dream. I immediately was like, God, I just want to like pick his brain. Because so much of like our stories are so similar and parallel, quite nice, and our journeys of making us into the parents we are today, which is another exciting thing I want to talk about. New daddy, congratulations.
Thank you.
I actually started really diving into your story the last week, and I got to watch the Netflix doc, and I just learned so much about you that I had no idea.
Yeah.
And like, I consider you and such dear friends, and I was like, wow, gave me so much perspective of, you know, who you were as a young boy, who you were as an athlete, who you were as a football player, and now on this beautiful journey of parenthood. I like to ask everyone to kind of break the ice is what moment in your life really split you wide open? And it could be sports related, it could be life related.
Yeah.
What was that defining moment in your life?
Ooh.
Heavy, I know, quite heavy very quickly, but...
My gut, I instantly went to the first time when somebody asked me, are you gay? And I said yes for the first time. I think like that is my moment that I felt the most vulnerable.
Wow.
Where like I had always said no, skirted around the answer, had some sort of curveball. And for whatever reason, I was really struggling. And it was my publicist at the time. And there was some things going on and it wasn't really making sense to him. And he's like, and he just asked it. And for whatever reason, I can remember I was in my grandma's driveway in Illinois on the phone with him, pacing nervously outside because I didn't know what was going on. Like I was like frantic. And he's like, I'm going to ask you something. And like, I just need you to know, he was a gay man himself. He's like, I need you to know you're safe, but like, are you gay? And for whatever reason, I said yes.
Wow.
And it was the first time, you know, and immediately after that, he's like, everything's going to be okay. And I was like, oh, I was like, what? I immediately was like, how do I take that back? And I didn't, but I just remember feeling so vulnerable.
And probably so safe to even answer it truthfully.
Yeah, I think I was just numb after I said it though, too, because I was like in shock that I actually like said it.
And that like brings me to really want to dive into your story because I do, Colton, I think you have a really beautiful story and there's so much beauty in the struggle. And I think we don't see that until we look at life through the lens as being a parent. And I think it's this beautiful journey of struggle and beauty that build us into the humans we are now to really be able to be good humans for young children. And our perspective of life changes so quickly. It is a little bit like whiplash.
Yeah.
I want to hear about Colton as a young boy, who he was, what made him pick up that football. What was it about the sport that made you feel like it was what you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
Yeah, you know, I think I had this baby infant photo of me wearing a 77 football jersey. 77 was my dad's number. And so I just think like it's always been in my DNA. I used to joke that I was bred, not born. Like, because my mom was a D1 volleyball player and my dad was a D1 football player. And they met in college. They're both D1 athletes, scholarship athletes. And so I always sort of had that joke that like my parents knew what they were doing by like getting together and making my brother and I. And I always sort of knew sports were going to be in my future. And, you know, my parents created a household in which they were like, you do not have to have a job if you play sports year round. So that, in a weird way, as a kid, that was in my brain. I was like, oh, I don't have to work. And like, also I can have some extra perks if I play sports. So I'm going to play sports. And I quickly fell in love with basketball, track and field, baseball for a little bit. Wasn't my end all sport. But then football came. And I just loved being able to transform once I put the helmet on. Like I was a completely different player, completely different persona, completely different man when I had the helmet and the pads on. And I just fell in love with that. And whether that's the right reasons or wrong reasons to fall in love with the sport, I fell in love with it because I was able to hide and I was able to somewhat release my anger in a healthy, legal way.
Yeah, seriously.
Of like, hitting people. Like
Yeah,
name another sport that
absolutely.
you can like violently hit people and like release built up aggression. And football allowed me to do that. And it was something that I like looking back, I probably think kept me alive. Like it just kept
Wow.
me going and ended up being, my high school, college, my life.
Mm-hmm.
And, all that to be said, I had incredible teammates, incredible coaches. Like there was so much more than just like the release and like that part of it
Yeah.
that I took away from the sport. And I would like, this sports and football specifically for me, I feel like parallels the ups and downs of life.
Oh yeah.
And every, what is it? The average football plays 4 or 5 seconds. Like sometimes it goes great, sometimes it doesn't, and you have to get up and go to the next play.
Yeah.
That's life. Like things are going to happen, and you're going to fall short of expectations that people have for you and you have for yourself. But then you like get up and dust yourself off and keep going. And that's what I feel like, I keep trying to do with my life.
Mm.
And I don't think I would have that same perspective if it wasn't for football.
It is so unique and so interesting how our sports really do shape us.
Yeah.
And we have this unwavering, undenying competitive spirit that is so magnetic, and you chase it, you chase that thrill. And it's interesting when you say, I love football and I love putting the helmet on so I could hide.
Yeah.
My escape for like through sport is because I lived in a very toxic, troubling home. As a kid, there was a lot of fighting, there was a lot of alcohol and addiction and mental health issues. And it was my escape. It was a place where, and I played with boys.
Yeah.
And I smashed the shit out of people all the time. And they finally were like, you can't have any more red cards or yellow cards. Like, you're breaking people's legs. We're putting you in goal. But you're right. It was such an escape for me to get away from something that made me feel so small.
Yeah.
And I know it's totally different topics. And I would assume yours had to be about your sexuality at some point when you were figuring out along the way. I am curious, is that true to you? Is it, when you say you put that helmet on, you felt like a different person? Is it the one place you could escape all of those thoughts of feeling alone and ashamed? Or did you really not know why you were different? You just knew you were different.
No, I knew why I was different once I hit high school and went through puberty, like freshman year. I think I definitely like started to figure out what it was.
Yeah.
But I think, looking back, you don't really like process the terminology that's loosely thrown around. And you and I have spoke about this briefly before too, is like the male sports culture for sure. And I'm sure I can't speak to women's locker rooms and women's sports culture, but homophobic slurs and also sexist slurs are like thrown around in a negative way a lot in football, and even, I mean, baseball, like you play ball like a girl, like from like our childhood, like famous lines in movies. So I think for me, I never felt comfortable standing up or like, if anything, I joined. I just wanted to blend in. I didn't want to like, so like I was part of the problem. I was contributing to it. And I think I couldn't really process my emotions at that time. I wasn't mature enough. And I don't think a lot of kids at that age are mature enough to like figure out how to process. So like disguising myself and or venting through big hits or being able to like be aggressive in my sport was the way that I processed. And, what always hurt the most was the coaches. Because I was like, better. Like you are supposed to be like a role model or somebody I look up to. Why are you using that as like, a knock on me or the way that I just play? Like if I had a bad play, why are you telling me, it's just,
tell me, elaborate. Like what?
I will. I mean, I have early memories of, messing up a play and, them saying, oh, you're taking it up the butt or you're doing like, it was very aggressive. Like that is, and that's like a mild
that's
one.
Locker room talk.
That's like coaches to players. That's like 30, 40, 50-year-olds talking to 16, 17, not even 14, 15, 16-year-olds. You know, being called, you know, pussy quite often is another one. You know, coaches saying that, you know, the player has a vagina instead of a penis. Like, that's real everyday locker room. And some people are going to laugh and roll their eyes and be like, yeah, right. It's true. And like, as innocent, or I don't even want to say innocent, as like people like are like, oh, you can't take it that personal. Like, when it's done 100 plus times a day or a practice, it gets to you.
But it also is personal.
Correct.
It is absolutely fucking
because
personal.
it's a private battle that like I had to go through, and the people who were supposed to be there to protect me and like look out for me as a person and as a player were the ones contributing to it.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part.
That's hard for me to hear, because it's not the same, clearly. And women's sports, and you and I have, we talk about this all the time. It really drives me crazy that in the women's game, so many of us identify on some spectrum of queerness. I would consider well over half of us are gay. So that type of language just doesn't exist. That type of communication from coaches or fans just doesn't exist, because the majority of the people tuning into our games also identify as queer or a part of the community.
Yeah.
So it's just always been a really hard topic that I always talk about in the rooms I walk into. It's 2020 fucking 4. And we still do not have active gay male athletes saying, this is who I am. A, it's none of your fucking business, but B, it doesn't affect the player and person I am and how I show up in this locker room.
Right.
So it's so sad for me to see and hear stories that minimize and shrink people and make people fearful. Colton, if I heard that in a locker room, I would never be able to be like, yeah, I'm gay. Like, that's just, I would be like, I would get smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's a testament. What I will say, it's for you to show up in the level in which you did, because I consider us 1%ers.
Yeah.
People do not live the life we did. We were built to be machines.
Yeah.
And we were built to suffer, which I'll get back to, because I'm trying to unlearn that, which is one of my hardest things in therapy.
We just found out we had that in common when we were talking. Because my husband brought that to my attention. He goes, do you know you do this thing? Like, you don't say when something hurts. Like, you just like take the pain, and like I can clearly see like it's hurting you, but you like laugh it off. And I'm like, oh, no, I never knew that. But like, that's me being an athlete. Like,
we are built to suffer.
Yes.
I just can't imagine showing up into my locker room space and only presenting half of myself to my team, because so much of it is based on trust and chemistry.
Totally.
And you didn't even fucking trust the people in that locker room, while they use terms like faggot and homo and getting it up the butt and being the butt of a joke. Like, I just can't imagine. And forget having your dad come from football.
Right.
Your dad was a coach.
Yep.
Dad coached you most of your life.
Yep.
You come from an extreme religious background.
Yeah.
Like, to see where you are today is such a gift. And I'm so happy, like, we're both sitting here, and I'm so lucky to have our friendship, because I consider you like so near and dear to my heart. What a fucking journey. Like, what a journey for you.
I know. I always try to like say I live life with no regrets, but like one big one that I have, and look, I truly believe I had to go on the journey that I went through. I had to make the mistakes that I made so that my kids and other people don't have to go through that. But I wish that I would have been out and playing, because I would have loved, because trash talk's part of the game. You know that. And I would have loved to put somebody on their ass and then tell them that, you know, that derogatory mark just put him on his ass.
Exactly.
Or like be able to just have a comeback or a quip and just be able to like level the playing field a little bit. Be like, you're going to keep using words that you feel like are just going to tear me and my community down. And like, here I am kicking your ass every single day. I would have just loved to have that moment to be able to like talk some trash back to them as an out player. because then their words mean nothing. Then they're like, their insults aren't insults because who they're implying is weaker and lesser than them just beat them.
Yeah.
So that would be like the one thing that I wish, if I can go back, I would have like had that. You know, I'm confident that eventually there will be a stud quarterback or a stud college player that is openly bi or openly gay, and it's just sort of like, yeah,
Who
so
cares?
what? Like I'm like, it just does his thing.
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal to so many people. I think it's just all it's going to take is one.
Well, I think that's it, right? So the visibility piece, and I know we talk about this a lot, especially in our community. You know, I know there's so many things we would love to do different. And I wish if I saw more female athletes who looked like me, who had my sexual identity, like if I had more visibility of what was possible, fuck, it wouldn't have taken me so long to figure it out.
I know.
And like, I lived this life almost like a paper bag. I kind of just fucking went like with this group, and I was like, oh, I don't really fit in this. And then it was like a chameleon. Yeah. I just go and blend with all
I was so
these.
good. But that's the locker room, right? We're so good at blending in.
So
I
good.
could fit into, like, that's the one thing I do miss. Everybody's like, do you miss it? I miss the locker room. And as painful as a locker room was for me at times, I miss the melting pot of cultures. Like one of my best friends grew up in the hood of Milwaukee. And then I have another guy who's from a rich Chicago suburb. And then all of a sudden you're playing with somebody from South Florida. And then you have, so like I got more life experience in that locker room than any other part of my life.
Absolutely.
And just got to hear their stories and their struggles and what they went through, and gave me a whole new perspective. Because I grew up in like a cornfield and bean field in Illinois. I didn't have we had like one black kid in our high school. So I didn't get to educate myself on culture until I really got to college. And it was such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And that's why we love it. That's why it's so important. That's why sports teach young kids so much. It's like, that's why it's so valuable.
Totally.
Being this incredible athlete, incredible young man, how did you keep it so quiet? How did you walk into that locker room, this, masculine, handsome, big beefcake you were, and you still are clearly, like, how did you hide that?
Yeah.
Like, how did you not get outed? How did you, fuck, I went on one date with Sophia and it was like headlines, hello, tabloids. I was like,
there's no hiding that. And I think we live in a different era.
Well, that's true too. That's true. I'm just like, how did you do it? Were you ever scared? Were you like, fuck,
I was living in a spider web of lies. No, for real. In college, this is like a perfect example. In college, I basically compartmentalized my high school friends, which I went to college 45 minutes away from my high school. So, and there was a lot of people from my high school who went to my university. I would never let my high school friends really get to know my college friends, because when I wanted to explore my sexuality physically, I would lie. They'd be like, are you coming home for the weekend? I'd be like, yeah, or no, I'm staying at college. And my friends at college would be like, are you going home? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going home. And then I would have my free time. I never wanted them to compare notes. So, but then on top of it, as I really learned, and I don't love this character trait about me, but I really learned how to control situations, and all the way down to I had a folder of, and I'm not proud of this either, but I had a folder of topless women on my phone ready to go to prove that I was straight. And because that was very much the locker room of who are you into now? Check this out. And it's very show offy, and it's very, if you don't have that, something's wrong with you. Something's weird. I just remember how proud they were that they were exploiting people. And then I felt really gross and changed the way that I went about it. But that was one of the ways that I sort of felt like I needed to protect myself. It's if these other straight guys are acting this way, I guess that's how I have to act too, to fit in.
So do you feel at that time, I can't imagine putting myself in that situation. However, when I was in college, I would have a boyfriend and I would be physically intimate with, and then I would crawl out of bed and go sleep in my roommate's bed because I felt more emotionally safe. And that's when like I started flirting a little bit with, why do I physically feel like I have to do this, but emotionally feel safe on this side? And it
See, I was the opposite
really
of you. So I was more emotionally connected to women and physically
connected to men.
So like I physically I could separate. Like when I started to first hook up with men, I wouldn't talk. I wouldn't ask their name. I wouldn't like, but that's also gay culture is easier to get away with that for any of our straight listeners or viewers out there. Like that doesn't happen.
You had an image to keep up.
I did.
Too.
And like, I even remember, so it's so messed up. Like my first tattoo that I got was this cross, and I'm a Christian, I'm a gay man, but like when I was closeted, I really prayed to not be gay. I wanted to be so straight. And part of it, I think when I got this, I don't know if I ever really talked about this, but part of the reason I got a cross was I was like, okay, this will stop me from hooking up because then people are going to be able to identify me from my tattoos.
Wow.
All I did was cover it up when I went to go like do things. But it's so the mental gymnastics that you have to do to justify the shame that you have when you're in the closet and trying to figure yourself out. Like that's the other thing is like, I truly just wish that I would have been able to say like, I'm confused about my sexuality. I'm going to need a minute to figure it out versus going the route that I did of like a lot of pain and suffering for myself and people in my life.
But what makes me so proud of you, and I have to say this, is the fact that you leverage your platform now to help. Because there's someone right now who's dealing with the same things you did, who still feel that locker room is not safe enough to be themselves.
Yeah.
And we are still being, I mean, men are losing their jobs when they actually say the hard things, which it's not a hard thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's who you are.
Well, can I tell you this? After my show came out, there's a lot of people in my hometown that were not happy that I aired the conversation that I aired between the coach and me. And at first I felt really guilty and I was like, why did I do that? Like, I really just feel like I messed up friendships. And like, the more I sat with it, and then I started getting messages. I got messages from 4 kids on the team from my town who were out, like not publicly out, but like who basically came out to me in my DMs. It was like, thank you so much. Like I haven't told anybody, but like I'm on the team and this is exactly how I feel right now. That made it all worth it in my head. As like, as much as people were sort of coming for me, like, how dare you trap him, or how dare you come for this program and these coaches and all this. I mean, I suffered for how many years of my life, and not solely because of those people, but like they definitely didn't help, but they're continuing to do it and get away with it up until this day. And like, that's not okay.
No.
So that made me feel better. And I do think, you know, when the show first came out, it caught a lot of backlash, and I obviously have learned so much more and I have a completely different perspective now. But I do think a lot of people from middle America, in the middle of our country, are going to watch that and know that they're not alone sports wise, because there isn't, you know, that much representation yet.
Well, Colton, statistically, there are gay men out there.
I mean, there was supposed to be. There was
rumors.
There was rumors that there was supposed to be like this group of gay NFL players that were going to jointly come out and like try to help. But then all it takes is 1 or 2 people to back out, and then they don't feel as safe. So, you know, I know there's gay people in the NFL.
Well, I'm sure you do.
And they're just like waiting for their careers to be done.
Yeah.
To come out.
But will we ever create change if we continue doing that?
No, and once the only reason I'm saying male sports is because I feel like that's what I can speak to. I'm not going to ever speak for women, but like the male sports culture right now is so homophobic that it's going to take a lot to change. I have faith that it can, but it is going to take a lot to change it. And it is going to take a 5-star high school recruit that's maybe openly bi or openly gay, or it's going to take a first round draft pick out of college to enter into the NFL as an out gay, out bi man, to really change people's, view and perspective of queer men in sports and queer people in sports in general.
Yeah. I'm so hopeful for it because I can't, and this is a genuine question. Do you feel that, and it's not that I want you to feel like you have to go back and you have to change anything. I genuinely want to know if you are the person you are now, the Colton you are now, the dad you are, the husband you are, so sure of every part about you and the growth you've had. If you were to go back, do you think your football career would have been different? To bring your whole fucking self to the picture, exactly who you wanted to be, exactly how you wanted to show up for that locker room and your teammates and your coach. Do you think your career would have been different?
Yeah, it would have been better. I truly believe. I mean, and I had 2 All-American seasons in college. Like, I would have played much looser. I would have practiced harder. I would have felt more mental clarity. I just would have brought a whole different level to me. That's it's sort of like that last gear that I never unlocked.
Yeah.
And while I was playing both, because my story is I played a D1 AA college, and then I went to the NFL for 3 years and was on practice squads. And I felt like I was just spinning my tires. And I know why. I was spinning my tires because I couldn't level up. I couldn't kick it to the next gear. And I couldn't do that because I couldn't be fully myself. And I sort of had to live this double life and this shame and this stigma. So my answer to your question is yes, but it would have been better. My life and my career would have been better.
Yeah. And I hope that we can definitely get to the point. And I love that you use your platform to continue to push for change. And I mean, I hope I see that in my lifetime as well, because it's such a beautiful gift to be at such an elite level, and the emotional toll it takes to be at the top is exhausting.
Yeah.
Forget battling an internal battle about showing up exactly who the fuck you want to show up to be.
Right.
I can't imagine the exhaustion and the energy you had to put in other parts of your life instead of just focusing on your job.
Yeah. There was a lot of, like I said, a lot of spider webs that I had to, and it's just, the other thing that really sort of surprised me is after I publicly came out, I had a lot of players that I used to play with and teammates from college and pros and coaches reach out to me and come out in a different way of just opening up about something they felt shame or stigma around, from, drug addictions to cheating on their wives. And sort of find the safety with me that I really realized, the sports culture isn't very vulnerable. We all are built for pain, and we're built with this armor to not let people know that they're getting to us.
Yeah.
So why would we ever be emotional or vulnerable with our teammates? Because we're weak. That's what they tell you. And I think that hopefully has changed. I like to think that's changed a little bit. And I think that has to do a lot with people feeling more comfortable talking about their mental health. Because that's also a bridge to communicate openly with what's leading to those mental health challenges.
Absolutely.
For me, it was my sexuality. For other people, it can be a handful of other things. And I think we're slowly getting better there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, mental health is such a valuable part of this. And I know you and I are both very big advocates in the mental health space for a reason, because we've been through it, and we've been through a ton of pain and hardship. And I think it's so admirable and important for a very masculine man to be able to be vulnerable and show that you have scars and you want to share those scars so other people, maybe not, they don't have to take the same journey and pain you did if you use your voice for good. We're on this whole topic about football and the NFL, and then you retire and you decide to do The Bachelor.
Yeah.
And you're a part of the franchise. You're in 3 different parts of The Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor Paradise, your own show. Do you feel that was your breaking point? And how hard was the transition of now you're this big public figure?
Yeah.
Because football you can hide. You got a helmet on, especially football. No one, not many people.
The Bachelor was my helmet.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, it definitely wasn't my breaking point. If anything, it was false hope.
Yeah.
It was contributing to the same sort of logic of I'm going to pray the gay away. I'm going to make this show's going to convert me. I'm going to be straight. I'm going to fall in love. And it was also confusing. And I think it's important that like I've done a lot of therapy and worked through this. And at first I didn't really want to talk about it because I didn't want to confuse people, but like it was confusing to me. And I think you'll relate to this is like, I was attracted to some of the women, but I'm a big energy guy. Like a lot of the women on my season had masculine energy and like, it just like we vibed. There was nothing, I don't know how else to explain it. I always in the back of my mind physically knew I was missing something.
Yeah.
But I was going in it with pure intentions of like, I'm going to become straight and this show is going to help me. And I obviously was wrong with that, but like that was my mask. That was my helmet. I just jumped from one crutch to another.
Yeah.
That's all I did. And now I realize that, but I just, and as far as like adrenaline goes to like, I sort of match the same, like it's hard to recreate sports adrenaline, right? Like when you step on to the green and like you step onto that field and all of a sudden you're flooded with that spike, right?
Oh God, yeah.
You're chasing that for the rest of your life when you're done playing. When I got in front of a camera and they mic'd me up and I knew like we were recording, I got that same...
That adrenaline just fucking explodes.
Where I was like, oh, I love this. I love the entertainment industry. Like this is sort of my hit. Like I like
pressure.
This.
It's make or break.
Yeah.
And I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a whole different, the one thing I'll say is like, it was just a whole new level of fame. Like playing football, I had a name for myself in the sports community, but then all of a sudden now you're on ABC, for me, I recorded 3 shows in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I'm on back to back to back hit shows. All it did was make it more difficult for me to physically explore men and explore my sexuality when I was single and not dating anybody in between shows, which I was doing.
Yeah.
It just made it a little bit more challenging.
I mean, I can imagine because you were everywhere. And it was so public.
When I had my show too, it was like Times Square billboards and like out here, but like I don't know how, somebody at some point was just like, wait, but yeah.
I also think what's very important is, and I say this often, is like, you don't have a playbook. You don't have a playbook to come out. You don't have a playbook to live out a very public separation, divorce, split from Cassie. Like there's no playbook.
Yeah.
And when I saw you take off running on that fucking show, it made me think about my life and my situation and my relationship, because as soon as the aha moment hit, I fucking ran, and I ran so fast, and I hurt a lot of people in the process, but it was literally life or death. It was literally life or death for me. There was no option for me.
People will never understand that. And I think that that's something like it took me a while to be able to vocalize it, and it's incredible that you already can. But like, was it good? No. Was it harder than hell for me to like go through what I did? And and I made a ton of mistakes, and I did a ton of things that I never wanted to. And I like, it just makes my skin crawl to even like look back. But I had to go through that. Like it was a life or death situation. And like, I had to figure myself out. It came at the expense of a lot of people. And and I have to take the accountability and like own that. But now I'm just like, I look back, and I mean, you're obviously, the healing journey never stops. Like you're going to be on it for a long time, but like you're well on your way. And I just know that. And I'm really excited for myself and excited for you too. But like, it's it's a challenging thing.
It really is beautiful because you've gone through this incredible journey, and I appreciate you sharing so much of it with me. And then you decide to come out.
Yeah. To be completely transparent is like I was publicly, the reason why, it was sort of backwards, my coming out process. I came out to my team, and for people, like my business team.
Yeah.
Like my publicist was the first person. Then I came out to my management, and then I came out to my agents. And I had to do that because I was being blackmailed. So I was like trying to figure out, okay, if this goes to the press, I need somebody to help me, and I'm not ready. Like the thing that I think people are like, well, why didn't you just ask I wasn't ready to come out to my mom and my dad yet. And like, I have gone to them for everything in my life, but like for whatever reason, I trusted my gut. I wasn't ready to come out to my family. It would have been too much for them to process, I think, because like I just put them through 3 television shows about finding a wife, and I could not do that to them where I was like, I was not ready and I just didn't feel it. So I had to come out to them, and they had to like help guide me. And they did. And the show opportunity for the Netflix part came up, and I'd gone back and forth if I was going to do it several times, and I finally said yes. And ultimately the reason why I decided to is like, I lived such a straight life on camera, and like threw my straight sexuality into the universe, that I needed to try to fix it, was the way that I justified it in my head of like, okay, like now I have to really own who I really am. As hard as this is going to be, I have to do this. And it's going to be messy, and it's going to be ugly at times, but like I have to let people in on that, because they got to see this polished suit and tie bachelor who, you know, wasn't the most authentic and was like really confused and trying to like fix himself. It's important that they see this version too.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Is this why you became such a big advocate in the mental health space? Because I can't imagine, Colton, this was easy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think and for me, where I specifically focus on is advocating for college athletes, college level athletes, because when I go back and sort of put a finger on where it started was in the locker room, whether it was, you know, my senior year of high school and or college. A lot of my pain and a lot of my suffering could have been prevented or minimized if I would have started to get help in college and trusted a therapist, because a lot of these athletes struggle to feel safe enough to tell somebody who is part of the university, who controls their playing time, who controls their scholarship, who controls their life. Like when you're on scholarship and playing at the collegiate level, that is your life, that you're struggling mentally because you're afraid that since you are going through depression and or anxiety, you're going to be benched. And that's just a reality. And I think that's what a lot of athletes feel. So advocating for more resources and to get rid of the stigma and just say somebody with anxiety and depression could still go out there and kick ass. And just because they're going through that right now does not make them less of a player, less of a human. I think that's why I've become such an advocate, is because, you know, my own experience, but then also I hear from and see a lot of athletes out there today that are struggling.
And it's not just their sexuality.
No, it's that's one thing too that really shocked me. Is like I said before, people slide into my DMs and come out in different ways. Like, hey, I know like I'm not gay, but this is what I'm going through. And it's similar. Like the coming out journey and like owning, it's all rooted in shame. Like just people working through their shame and the stigmas in our, you know, culture and the societal norms is something that I really realized is very common.
Yeah. Once you finally dropped the rope and you said, you know what, even though you were forced a little bit to do it, sometimes we just need a little nudge.
It was the best.
Did it change everything for you? Did just the weight of the world and the lies?
I sort of dropped it after I came out of like pursuing who the emails came from, who the pictures were threatened from, because I got so obsessed with that. Because I was
Yeah.
like, I need to find who's doing this to me and make sure it doesn't get out. Like, I'm sort of like, I dropped it and I was like, I'm sort of grateful they pushed me.
Yeah.
I really am. I might not have been ready, but like what I was ready for was like I had the right team and people around me who protected me and helped me and were there for me. And I'm proud of that. And I'm glad that they gave me a little nudge.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it led you to meeting Jordan, and it really feels that it changed your life for the best. So how did these challenges lead you? Because I adore you and Jordan. I am like the smile, that goofy grin on your face right now tells me everything I need to know, because he's the fucking best.
Yeah.
The second I met both of you, it was like immediate. I just remember walking in, you both walked into the kitchen and we just like wrapped our arms around each other.
Yeah.
I think because it's not like a painful hug. It's I see you.
We understood each other.
We understood each other right
Jordan,
away.
I met him at the wrap party of my Netflix show. Wow. So like I very vocally to people too was like, I'm not looking for a relationship. And all of a sudden I meet him, and then 2 months later we're on the same trip and he helps me through it. And then like we go to release the show and it's met with a ton of backlash. And I had been through it, but like I never experienced that, and experienced it from the gay community too, where like they were condemning me and coming for me. And obviously the Bachelor fans were confused to why I was like so publicly coming out. And all of a sudden I had this rock of like Jordan, and it just made us obviously even stronger. And I just fell more in love with him more than anything. And I think like that's like what I can see with you too, is like as hard as it's been, you have a rock in Sophia. Like,
absolutely.
I mean, it doesn't get much better. And the thing that I can say is like Sophia and Jordan are very good friends too. So like they're cut from the same cloth.
Yes.
Where they're ride or dies, and you don't want to get on their bad side, because they will stick up for the people, like their family and the people in their lives. They love hard.
They love hard.
I get to watch that every single day with him.
The universe presents you with a beautiful gift, and it's your choice, even in your most broken, vulnerable, suffering state, whether you take it.
Totally.
And, you know, you always talk about this life that you've always wanted with children, you know, being married, really living with full purpose and as your full self. And I really feel like you're doing that. And I'm so happy that you now are this new father. And I'm sure it gives you such a different perspective. And, you know, as you said in the Netflix special about your dad was very much so a coach a lot in your life. And not that he wasn't the best father figure, he just was coach, right? And now that you're a father, because I say this a lot, being a parent and looking through the lens as being a mom, I forgave my parents immediately, because even though it's the greatest thing I've ever done in my life, it is the hardest.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it until you start becoming a parent. And lucky enough for both of us, we do live privileged lives where we have access to things our parents never dreamed of.
Right.
And they still managed, worked it out, worked 2 jobs, did all these things so we would have the best. And I'm just wondering, has your perspective on life, now that you're married and you have beautiful Bishop, has it changed? Is there anything now that you're like, I want to be this kind of dad because I know what it's like on this side, and I want to give this world to my child where he is safe enough to be in a locker room potentially one day and be exactly who he wants to be? Like, just, do you think about that now being a father?
Yeah, I think I have a responsibility. And I think I've always known that I've had a responsibility, but like, in a way, I have a husband to hold me accountable and also to like help me take the high road at times. I mean, I'm sure you can relate to this too. Like, it's hard. Like, you sometimes let the emotions, and we do this as athletes too, you sometimes let the emotions get the better of you, where you see something and you want to react quickly and like defend yourself and like, punch back.
Yeah.
And sometimes having that voice, and for me it was Jordan during my hard times, of like leveling me out and calming me down and saying, hey, this is how we're going to approach this. We're going to take the higher road here. And I want to be that version of myself, this current version with Jordan, and like all of the things he's sort of rubbed off onto me, for my son. And I want to be a better example. I want to, continue to keep improving who I am. I want to set a good example, and I want him just to be proud of who I am and what I'm putting out there, especially since he's entered this world. I mean, I'm sure like at times or when he's old enough, he can go back and see what I've done in my athletic career and in the entertainment industry and stuff like that. But I think it's important that from the moment he entered this world, he sees like that I'm trying to lead by example for him.
It's so enjoyable for me to sit back and see like how present you both are and how sweet and kind and gentle. Like, you're so gentle, even though you are built to be this machine who has taught to be.
Wait, I was so nervous for newborn. I think I told you this when you came over.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to be good, because I was like, I have these big hands. I'm like athletic, but I'm also like a little clumsy.
Yeah.
Like I'm like a bull in a china shop, right? Like, I'm like this big dude. So I was really scared. And then all of a sudden he comes out and I'm like swaddling him, changing his diaper, like holding a bottle, feeding him with my neck and chin as like I'm trying to like get his booties back on. Yeah, I was really nervous. And all of a sudden I was like, it just kicks in.
It's your natural.
Yeah.
And you said, because you have your own podcast, Daddyhood,
yes,
which I love. And you've said this from the beginning, like you really feel, and you felt like you were born to be a dad. You just have always wanted to be a dad.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to like get it right. You're the sweetest, most gentle human I know, even though you've been in this very masculine, very aggressive sport.
It's sort of been healing to feel like I have some maternal instincts. And same with Jordan. He does too. Like, that was always something Jordan and I feel like we balance each other out in our feminine and masculine energies. Like, we were a really good mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the parental, maternal, like whatever people terminology they want to use, like I just feel like it kicked in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we got this. Like, this is calming to know that, like, you're going to pick me up when I need you, and I'm going to pick you up when you need me.
And you know what I love too is you both are so open on your podcast about, how you chose to do this. And I think most people actually don't know. So if you are open to sharing, because it is such cool. The way you and Jordan went about this was so beautiful, and your entire process actually talking about it, because most men don't talk about the fertility process for us as gay same-sex couples. It's difficult and it is very expensive. And especially you and I, like, we're brainwashed a little bit because we have cared for our bodies in a way most people don't. Right. Like, trust me, when we walk into a room, people will know we are athletes. And with that comes, we eat right, we sleep right, we still work out, we do cold plunge, we do sauna, we do all of these things. Yeah. But also we've done things to our body to be the best at our sport that actually hurt the fertility process. And you were so open about it, because that had to be hard when you wanted to start having children. They were like, listen, your sperm count is not like that. I had none.
Like that, what you're alluding to. So when we first started this, and I'll start by saying, like, oftentimes when you hear about fertility struggles, immediately I think everybody's mind goes to, oh, she or her fertility issues. No, men are 50% of the equation, whether you like it or not. If there is anybody out there that's struggling with fertility right now, my number one advice before people get started is please have the men, the husbands, or both men, if you're in a same-sex relationship, go get tested.
Mm-hmm.
Just know where you're at, because it took me 6 months. Jordan's numbers were good. It took me 6 months to rehabilitate my sperm. And the top contributing factors to my low sperm count / no sperm was daily hot tub / hot baths.
Mm-hmm.
I love a bath.
Mm-hmm.
And exercising more than 4 times a week
Mm-hmm.
actually harms your sperm production. I was Pelotoning too, which bike rides tend to do that.
Yeah.
Sauna and steam room, and then taking testosterone or TRT
Mm-hmm.
replacement. So testosterone, for those men out there that are taking it, while there are plenty of benefits to it, it actually does work as like it sterilizes you essentially. It tells your body to stop producing sperm. So my numbers were really, really low. Yeah.
And that's like got to be hard, because your
Oh, for
journey,
sure.
you're literally like, I just want to be a dad.
And anybody who's been on the fertility journey knows, like, these fertility doctors are very black and white. They're like,
God.
and they went on to the next subject. And I was like, wait, hold on. Can someone hold my hand and cry with me for a second? Because I was expecting to like give my sample today and be pregnant in 9 months. And like
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, it took Jordan and I a little over 2 years to have Bishop. And it was patience and resilience and like a lot of start and stops. And once again, that's life, that's sports. And I don't know if I hadn't been an athlete, if I could have gotten through that as strongly as I did.
And what I love the most, and I don't think our listeners know this, but you and Jordan did a surrogate.
Yeah.
But you don't know whose sperm you actually ended up using. That is so cool and so amazing and so special, because it doesn't make either of you feel like you weren't a part of the process. It is beautiful.
I think
and
in a
it
way
just makes me want to weep, because
you.
it's like so special, and not many people think of that, especially with same-sex couples.
Yeah.
Someone is getting left out, and that's hard.
Yeah, it was. And I think in a way, when we talked about it, is we sort of did it to protect ourselves. One, because we had been so public with our journey.
Mm-hmm.
But what I noticed is, a lot of people don't understand. For 2 men, our egg donor is different from our surrogate. So the woman who gives us her eggs, we then fertilize with our sperm. And then from there, we have our embryos.
Mm-hmm.
And then once those embryos are tested and frozen, we then do an embryo transfer to a surrogate, which is a completely different lady and woman who is equally as incredible as our egg donor. And she carries our baby to term. And we just told our doctor, we were like, we know how many embryos I have. We know how many embryos he has. And we just said, hey, you put in whichever healthiest embryo is. And for the next one, when we come back to you, because we want 2, just put the opposites in. And we didn't really want to know, because one thing that bugs me, and I talk about this a little bit on my most recent episode of Daddyhood with Jordan, was a lot of times people are innocent and curious when they ask us a question of whose kid is it. It's an offensive question to ask same-sex couples. And honestly, I think just couples in general, because even straight couples have fertility issues. And I think people need to be a little bit more mindful of that, of the question of, but whose is it really? Or whose child is it? Whose biomaterial? Because it feels in a way like you're disqualifying one of the parents. And that's not okay, because we both went through a lot over 2 years to have baby Bishop here. And we don't like to hear, offensive things. We're sort of protective of our family.
And I think also what you're shedding light on, and I think what people don't talk enough about, is there's 2 folds here. There's this beautiful thing you're doing with your husband to bring a sweet human into this world, and Bishop, God, he's so freaking cute.
He is.
But the fucking process and the money that it takes for people like you and I, and Sophia and I have been dating now for almost a year, And I'm 39, she's 42, and we have to have these conversations now, early in a relationship. She's never had a child. I've never had a biological child. And the amount of money it costs to do these steps, not only for our community, but just families going through IVF, it really opens the door to having this conversation that why is it only people who have the means financially to even do this get access to it? Like I thought about freezing my eggs, and I started going through this loophole process and this hamster wheel of the process, the time, and the money. And I'm just like, who can afford this?
Right.
Like, I adopted 2 children, Colton, and I spent a lot of money adopting some of the most at-risk children out there. And I'm just like, how is this so hard? There's so many beautiful families out there who just want to be parents like us.
Totally.
Who maybe they don't have the financial means to do so. And do you ever think about that? Do you ever think of how we can change that and have, access to bringing beautiful children into this world without having
it's a financial burden.
It's a huge
Let me just
financial
plug a couple of companies,
please.
If you don't mind, because
Yes.
I did a lot of research over my season 1 of Daddyhood. For women out there that are looking to freeze your eggs, it's very expensive.
Yes.
There is a company called fertility that if you're comfortable enough to donate half of your eggs, they will freeze the other half for you to use for free.
Whoa.
So it's an incredible company. I had the founder on my podcast, and it's called fertility. So they just help take the burden off of the expense of freezing your eggs. And so throughout, once you get matched with where your eggs are going to and who they're going to, they schedule your egg retrieval, and then the other half will be frozen for you. So that's an option if you feel comfortable with it. Another company that's really cool is called Nodal. It's an app, and I had their founder on as well. And it's a surrogate matching program, sort of like a Tinder where you get to swipe. And I'm just fascinated by innovative and companies that are trying to change, because unfortunately, in my opinion, I feel like the fertility industry sees money through our LGBTQ plus community.
Absolutely.
They see the dollar signs and they know that, we can't have children on our own, and they charge us an arm and a leg. And I think that's a problem. So I love all of these different companies. And then the last one that I'll shout out for men out there who might not feel comfortable, and this goes for trans women out there who are looking to freeze their sperm. There is this company called Legacy Sperm, which is an at-home sperm testing kit. So if you do not feel comfortable going into your clinic to get tested and to get your sperm tested, you can request and get an at-home kit, and they freeze your sperm for you as well.
Wow.
So I say that because parts of our country, Oklahoma, Texas, some of the southern states that you might not necessarily feel comfortable going and getting your sperm frozen at, there is an at-home, test and kit for that.
I love that. I love that you've done so much research, and I'm
a nerd when it comes to it.
It's so important because there are just things we don't know, and it's great that you've really gone through this process, and you're so willing to continue advocating and sharing and making it easier for people like myself. And I'm just so lucky to call you a friend. And I know we're trying to build our sweet little families out and build a future together. And I hope we have this dream of being
moving
on
to
a farm.
I was like, wait, where are we going? Are we going there with this? I want my kids to play in dirt.
Same.
And I want them to have like farm animals as friends. And I want them to be able to ride their bike. I just want them to have a really good childhood.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just want them to have like responsibilities and chores and not feel like they have to, compete for attention. And it's no secret, I live in LA, and like, it's just, people are like, sign up for schools now. And I'm like, he's 1 month old. They're like, no, you need to get on the wait list. I'm like, no, I don't. I need to move. That's what I need to do.
I hope that we continue manifesting this life
Yes,
together,
yes.
and our kids get to be friends forever, neighbors, building tree forts.
Go cow tipping every once in a while.
Go cow tipping, get in trouble in a small town where it's allowed. Like, I just feel back in the day when we were growing up, we played every sport. We climbed every tree. We had cast on every limb. We split every chin and head open possible. And you just don't see that anymore. And I want that for our kids.
I know. We're going to make it happen.
Well, thank you for being so vulnerable and wide open. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I love your story. I love where you're at. Congratulations on being a new daddy.
Thank you.
And tell everyone where they can go listen to your podcast.
Oh, yeah. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, at Daddyhood is the podcast name. Season 1, I will say, is a lot about the fertility journey. And they're all pretty clearly titled. So if like some of them don't apply to you, feel free to skip around. But we interview anything from surrogates to egg donors to donor conceived children from both donor eggs and from donor sperm. So it just it paints a clear picture of what you're getting into. And then on socials, I'm just at Colton Underwood. And you can see lots of Bishop and Daddy content.
All right. So. And you'll see a lot more of us together riding on a farm, Annie.
I was going to say, in Hudson soon.
Yes. Thanks, babe.
You.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.